hearing. Today is Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with Executive Order 202.1. Also, the meeting can be seen live on Facebook. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Okay. So this is our 2021-2022 budget hearing. I'd like to let everyone know that we do have some of our department heads in attendance. We have Todd Travis, who from the wastewater plant, Bob Wheeler from the highway department, Peter Cook from the building department, Mike Lepore from our senior director department, Shane Farrell, chief of police, Nancy Bayer, recreation supervisor, and we have the chief from the Buchanan engine, Andy Roush. Thanks for joining us. And also Bob Outhouse is a trustee at the Buchanan Engine Company. So I'm sorry that we had a little delay. We had some technical difficulties, but we can move forward now. This evening, we're going to present the budget, and I'm going to have our administrator, Marcus Serrano, lead us in the a presentation and the discussion. Marcus, and if that's okay with the board, I would like to have Marcus lead this. He did a great presentation at our workshop at the end of March. So Marcus, I would like to make a motion to open the 2021-2022 Village of Buchanan budget. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open. We will start with the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and board members. This is a repeat of presentation I did last month, and appreciate everybody's time on this, and all the department has to be available. So give me a second. I'm going to share the screen and share some information with the board. Hold on, and the public. Hold on. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is on the website as well. So before I go into the detailed presentation, just want to talk about my budget message. What I'm trying to, as part of the budget message, is try to give a little summary of where we stand, what causes the tax rate increases, and how we got where we are. So if anybody has time to review it, I would really appreciate if you review it. This might answer a lot of your questions as part of the process. I get into a little details how the assessment row, how we achieved the assessment row this year, what caused any major expenses increases. I try to also give you a detail of any major increase in expenses or reduction in revenues over $5,000. And I try to detail that through every single department across the board. So I think this will give you a lot more detail than the presentation I'm about ready to present. And it shows you where the increases and decreases are across the entire budget with some percentages. And there's a couple pages. So I just want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to take a look at this, because they actually would allow you to have some more detailed information. So now to get into the budget presentation. And of course, and as a board members, please feel free to stop me at any time. I don't mind being interrupted, and we can get into the details. So this is my summary sheet of the budget. We're looking at a tax rate increase of 18.97%. That increase was due to a number of factors, but mainly was due to, as everybody expected, the loss of revenue from Indian Point and some additional expenses increases throughout the year, salary increases, benefit increases across the board. So the tax rate increase, as we can see here, is an increase of $374 or $31.19 a month. Some of the factors were we actually had a small decrease in our taxable value. That alone was a loss of $11,000 in actual dollars because of that decrease in taxable value. total expenses went up by 5%. Decrease in the revenue was almost 11.5%, mainly due for Entergy. But what's also was reimbursed, what I put it in there, is cessation fund. This hopefully will be the first year of the cessation fund coming in. I estimated to receive about $600,000 back from the cessation fund. Now, again, we won't know the answer, which concerns me, until after the budget is adopted, because the state will not even review an application until the plant is totally closed. So the state will not give me this, will not be able to say if I have the right number, if I'm too high or too low, until after the plant is officially closed. So I'm estimating a cessation fund reimbursement to the village of $600,000.
I have a question on that,
Sure.
Marcus.
Sure.
We're basing our entire tax increase and our revenue on a hopeful projection that we may receive 6 or 8 months down the road. You know, I don't think that's a sound way to budget, because we might not get that. And what happens if we don't get that?
Well, according to the state, we will get some cessation fund. They won't tell me the exact dollar amount until the plant closes. So it's $600,000. So I don't want to overtax the people, because the only other opportunity is to find another $600,000 in the budget, which means that we have to raise taxes or cut expenses by $600,000. And then if we do get it, then if I feel like we're overtaxing the people, or we cut when we didn't have to. So I've never had a nuclear plant shutting down. It's new for me as well. But in my discussion with the state, the money's there. The state put more money aside for the cessation fund, and my discussion with them is that you will get it, but they won't be able to tell me exactly what we will get.
So when would we know what we're getting? Because last month you had said you wouldn't know until around October.
If the plant officially closes in May or the end of April, we can apply as soon as the plant closes. They'll review it, and according to them, we'll know a response in June or July, and then the money will be received by the village in September or October.
So what's the contingency if we don't receive those funds or that value? Do we have an undesignated fund balance to recoup that expenditure?
Not the full $600,000. At that point, then we have to, just like the municipality loses revenue, then we might have to look at layoffs. I don't know. That's the only choice we have.
Well, we shouldn't be even considering that option. If we don't know what we're getting or how we're getting it, we can't plan on a hope, because we have no backup plan. You need a backup plan. How much is an undesignated fund balance do we have that we would be able to use in order to meet our payroll?
We have about $600,000 in the undesignated fund balance.
That's correct.
Approximately right now.
Again?
600,000.
Approximately 600,000.
So if we don't get this money, we won't have to lay people off, and we'll still be able to meet our obligations?
Mhm.
By using the total fund balance that we have. That's correct.
All right.
So
Well, aren't we also,
I've spoken to people in the state. They have told me, Marcus is going through the process, but I've talked to people in the state, and the money will be available this year. The school is also basing their budget on the cessation fund.
Well, I can appreciate. Go ahead, Dick. I'm sorry.
yeah, don't we also have a rather large contingency fund this year, enough to possibly we could get half of that 600 from it?
Probably in the contingent, probably about $200,000 we'll have in contingency as well. Yes.
So we could use whatever's left in the contingency, initiate some austerity spending procedure policy, and take what we needed to out of the fund balance.
Well, the only reason why I asked this question, Nick, is because I would hate to be stuck in a position where we can't meet payroll, and October, December comes around, November, and we say, hey, we got to cut somebody. If we have a fallback position where we have the ability to recoup these funds, if the state doesn't come through, because you always need a fallback. You can't put everything in one bag.
You're right to question it. I I actually questioned this at the last workshop,
Mhm.
but it sounded like from what Marcus was saying that we're sure to be getting that money, even if they can't pinpoint the amount. Now, it could be more than 600 that we get.
That's
It very
correct.
could be, but I always like to plan for the worst and hope for the best. So if we have
Yep.
those funds, my concern has been taken care of.
Okay, this rollout, we're just rolling this out. This is the budget hearing tonight. We're not voting on this tonight. We'll have more information by our special meeting / workshop at the end of the month, and we'll have a clearer picture. But I will see if I can get some documentation that they at least give me that says, yes,
We have to
What
vote
they're
on this at the
saying.
workshop.
Yes.
It has to be adopted by May 1st,
So
but
we're going to be voting on it at that special meeting that we're voting on other things as it is. So
Yep.
this is the rollout. This is with the information we have now. There's things that are being worked on that might feed into this also. So this isn't the end all of everything just
Okay,
yet.
so
This is
is that special meeting the 27th?
Yes.
That's correct.
Tuesday the
27th.
Huh?
yes.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
So
then
that's-
we have our workshop, but we will take care of the special meeting first. But
Correct.
no,
So
you'll
worst
have
case,
to go through.
so worst case scenario, we have the contingency and we have the fund balance. Worst case,
Okay.
cover us for 1 year, and then we'll see what happens after that.
No
yeah.
problem.
Okay.
And
And then
of course,
Marcus,
if
I'd
we
like
don't
you to
get 3
do
more
some
water main
projections.
breaks, the contingency will still be there.
Right.
The water fund is separate. They have their own money.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's true.
We haven't been pulling from the
I
water.
meant,
fund.
I guess I just mean to say if we don't get any major emergency repairs.
That's correct. And again, worst case scenario, we can borrow money from the water fund if we need to as well.
Okay.
Okay, next is we are looking at a water rate increase of 4.7%. That's again due to the increases in water rates between Montrose and Peekskill, as well as some additional losses from the Indian Point as well. So as you can see, the concerns are limited forms of revenue. Indian Point was the biggest source of revenue, and taxes. So there's not too many choices. As we need to start talking about capital projects as well. As the board knows, we have some major capital projects that we have to talk about. Recently, we talked about even the water valves which is in the water fund, that we have to look at, paving, and a number of other infrastructure issues that we need to talk about in the future. We do transfer about $600,000 from the water fund to the general fund. We got to talk about if the board wishes to reduce that reliance on the waterfront, and then the continued loss of taxable revenue, taxable value, and that would negatively affect the taxes as well.
Sure. Can I ask you something, Marcus? Last year, we did not take from the water fund, correct?
We took a lot. We took a little bit amount, a
Right.
small
we only
amount.
took a little. We didn't take what we usually take. Okay.
That's correct.
Excuse me, Marcus, can you just leave that screen a second?
Sure.
I think we need to point out for people watching that when you project an increase of 374 in taxes for the upcoming for the next fiscal year, that is based on the median
Average, right.
assessment.
That's
Which means
correct.
half the village will be paying more than that, and half the village will be paying less than that, depending on your assessment.
That's correct.
This is the median value, not the average, right?
That's correct.
Is
That's
it the
correct.
median or is
Average? It's the average.
Okay, so it's the average. Okay, so the average assessment, I think the average assessed house in the village is around 4,000.
Correct.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, but that's an average, so people should understand that for anybody that happens to be watching.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Good point. Thank you.
All right. Next is just some historical trends, the taxable value. As I showed at the last month's meeting, just showing how the taxes have gone up in the taxable value. This is not tax dollars, it's taxable value that's used to calculate the tax rate. As you can see, we're pretty flat, and we actually went down a little bit from the prior years. We're not the worst, we're not the best yet. This is just showing the tax rate increases for a number of years, just to show you how it was pretty low for a couple of years. Now it's heading back up. Again, it's just historical trends, just for public to understand where we are right now comparing the past years. So this gives you a little bit more of a detail of the expenses of what the increase in expenses were. Increase in contingency was 226. Most of that was due to personnel liabilities, which is more of an executive session discussion. I can more than happy to talk to the village board about that. Then also we have some small decreases, mainly due to potential retirement of one of the employees in the building, personal services. We had an increase in police salaries. As everybody knows, we settled a contract with the police, so that was the majority of that increase. Safety inspection personnel, that has to do with the building inspectors, the water treatment plant, and disposal of sewer, $35,000 increase. The retirement, the good news, the retirement bill actually has stabilized over the last couple of years, and that was due to the changes in the retirement system. You got to be older to retire. Less overtime is added towards retirement benefits. So that has actually good news for the municipalities. Also, we had a small decrease in medical insurance. I don't know what that trend is going to be in the future, but at least the rates that we got for next year from night shift has actually come down a little bit. So that's some good news. This is just to show you where your tax dollars are spent on general government support, public safety, transportation. So you can see general government support is the majority of the village expenses. Public safety is go close second, and home and community, for example, is your refuse and collection, to show you what that is. And public safety, that also includes the building department. So this shows you where the money goes in regards to groups. So between, since we provide a service, and the service means manpower, as you can see, the majority expenses is personnel expenses plus the benefits. The contractual is everything from gas, oil, repairs, lighting, ammunition to the police department. And as you can imagine, the village has to buy is included in that contractual. That's a close second. Debt service is very low. A transfer is a small amount of money that's mainly due for the paving. And then, as you can see, 1% is equipment. So very, very little spent on equipment purchases. Like I said, public safety is the largest part of the expense on public safety is the police department. That's 63%, building 17%, and of course the fire department, who's also on the line with us right now, is 20% of the public safety expenses for the village. And then we go into, when you get into details in the police department, 57%. The contractual is 63, the benefits is 35, the equipment is it's less than 1% for equipment. So the police department does very well and try to keep its expenses down. But as you can see, the majority is uncontrollable expenses. This is just to show you a comparison between personal services and contractual expenses. So you saw the police was heavily on personnel and benefits. The wastewater treatment plant is mostly contractual. Everything from the consultants to the chemicals necessary to clean the wastewater before it goes out, the pumps and everything else that goes along to do wastewater treatment. So it's less on personnel side, but more on the contractual side, the operations, just to show you that every department is a little different from each other. Medical contributions for these really medical expenses. As you can see, it was a trending, constantly going up since 2004, 5, and this year actually, for the next year, actually trending a little bit down, which is good, and hopefully that trend will continue. But we don't know what the future holds on medical expenses.
I'm sorry, Marcus. Could you go back to the other pie chart on the wastewater treatment plant, please?
Sure.
So when we talk about contractual expenses, what exactly are you talking about? Are we paying somebody other than our own employees to do licensed work?
Yes. Todd is on the line. We have outside Allied is still working in the wastewater treatment plant to provide the assistance that we need in the wastewater treatment plant. Yes.
Why is that?
That's because we need a licensed operator.
So why don't we have a licensed operator?
We're still working on that process right now.
So how many operators are we contracted out to, and how much is that expenditure for these contract services?
I can get you that information. I don't have it that detail. If you want to give me a minute, I can pull it out. But we do have a contract with the licensed operator to assist with the operations of the plant. And I can get you the detail of that.
Years
for
ago,
Allied.
we used that as a stopgap measure, and we had sent our men or our employees to get licensed, so we didn't have to have that increased expenditure. And when we only had one licensed guy, I believe Han Engineering had done some approval with some of the testing. So I was wondering if this is going to be the way going forward, is to just contract out our license requirements, or if the goal is to have our own licensed people in-house, and what is the projection of having 2 licensed men, because you're around the clock services, and obviously you can't have one person around the clock, or 7 days a week. So
Yeah.
how long has this
Let
been
me
an
let me
issue?
answer that. Sean, we got into a situation where we needed these people to come in.
Sure.
We are working on getting someone licensed, but you do realize it takes a year before that person can even take the test. So now if we pull one of our other employees in that want to do this, we have to wait a year for them to be able to take the test. But I will tell you this, Todd is doing a phenomenal job. But not only that, Todd has had an unbelievable opportunity that none of our other people have had. He's had the opportunity to work with professionals, licensed people, and he's been trained by excellent, excellent people that understand wastewater. So we've been very fortunate to have these people work closely with Todd. They have a wonderful working relationship, and Todd is getting stronger and stronger. And, he's learned so much, because years ago, that we didn't have, when we had a changeover, not all the time, and let's be honest, not all the time the person that was leaving would give all the information or all the training to the new person. So Todd is in a very unique position. He's had great opportunities with this company.
Well, I have no doubt that he'll be successful.
He absolutely will.
What I'd like to know is, going forward, if we're only going to have one person there, if maybe we should bring
Yeah.
somebody else over there to obtain that same training, because as you know, you can't take the test until you've been actually 1 year in an operating plant. And if we only have one person over there, then this contractual responsibility is going to be almost in perpetuity. So, maybe we should put out a request or a job application for somebody with a license, so we can get rid of this contractual issues. If we can get some numbers together, maybe we could solve this problem.
Well, get the numbers together and see financially which is the smarter way to go also.
That's the only point I want to make. I can give you how much we're paying for the Allied, and don't forget, Allied provides a number of people who are available 24/7. So the only thing you give up, Sean, is that if a person, if you have 2 operators, one is sick, one is on vacation, sick, then you have nobody to operate. These people guarantee somebody 24/7 in case anything happens. And then we have to add the salary and benefits on top of that. So I think having a contract is more beneficial to the village, because you have more guaranteed response time if something happens, and actually have higher levels of experience to run the plant. But I definitely can get you how much we're paying. But then you got to consider how much a new person would pay with salary and benefits to be there and not available 24/7.
And do we have an agreement with the union to contract out their
Yes.
jobs?
Yes,
So the union doesn't have an issue with this?
that's
On
correct.
a permanent basis or a temporary basis?
On the year, we've been renewing that agreement with the union on a yearly basis.
So there's no guarantee that next year it will be approved?
Hey, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that would be a board decision at that point, Sean.
Yeah. And I think it's advantageous having these contractors also, for the reason that if we, in the future, money becomes available and we overhaul that sewer plant, there could be new technology, and there would be people that would be familiar with it that could pass that on to our person and work with them. So, I think there's a lot of advantages to the system we have going right now.
Okay.
And Todd is on the line too. I think Todd has a great working relationship with this company right now. And if Todd has an issue, they're on the phone immediately, can assist. If Todd has to go out sick on the day or something happens, the company guarantees somebody to be there at any time. So
Okay,
I think it's beneficial.
okay.
Okay, medical contributions, retirement. Again, as you can see, it was there was a big jump in 2012 and 13. It went up a little higher. It leveled off for a couple of years, and we had another big jump. But the new rate has actually come down. Hopefully the consensus from the retirement system is as the older people retire that have the higher benefits, as younger people come in, it's going to take them, they pay actually towards what their retirement to their whole career, number one. And number two, they retire a little older. And also, like I said, the overtime is not the same that it used to be. On the revenue side, so as you can see, we had $231,000 in reductions, as we discussed it before. We had the decrease in payments of lieu of taxes, which is Indian Point. We also had an agreement with Indian Point for what we call the infrastructure. That amount is going away as well. Indian Point also reimbursed the village or paid the village $35,000 for traffic control. That's probably going to be going away as well. And also they paid a sewer surcharge. This number, the reduction of 64,000, is based on what they anticipate the flow to be decreased by. I got that from Indian Point themselves. And then the hopes are that we get the $600,000 in station fund from the state.
Marcus, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Last year, the reduction from the pilot was 400,000, which was 30% of the 30% drop in the pilot for the one reactor, and now another one is closing. And I'm just wondering why it's not 800,000 the decrease this year, since it would be 30% again on the one that closed last year, or 400,000 again.
It was based on the new pilot arrangement that was made between the village and the school district, and actually what straight dollar amounts, which I share with the village regarding the change in the pilot. So it wasn't based on per se a formula. It was based on a negotiated number between Entergy and all the municipalities.
We did
Okay.
better with Entergy on the renegotiated.
Okay,
We were able to do
Okay.
better.
very good.
This is just showing you the major revenue sources. That again, I'm pointing this out because there's no other revenues that we receive. The mortgage tax is tiny, state aid, sales tax, Indian Point, and the pilot is the major sources of revenue. As we lose this blue number, as you can see, we have to make it up somewhere. So the only place to make it up is then taxes right now.
Marcus, what
Yes.
does Spectra Energy give? What does Algonquin? Don't they have a tax agreement with us for the new pipeline that they put in?
There's no pilot from them. There's no payments from them. No.
So we don't receive any money from Spectra Energy for either one of their pipelines.
No.
Any three of them.
They paid a number of years ago. They paid a substantial amount of money to the village, and that was it.
But Marcus, isn't that something that's affected, like Con Edison? The I can't think of what that is. The assessment.
New York State sets the Con Edison assessment
Right.
rates on a yearly basis.
Just wondering.
So that's a fluctuating rate.
Right, absolutely.
So, and I was under the impression that the Public Service Commission does the same thing for the pipelines. But so we don't receive any tax money from Spectra Energy or Algonquin.
No, I haven't seen anything unless it's. I don't think it's part of
Excuse
the
me.
utilities
Do you
tax.
have that information?
Cindy,
We do get taxes, once a year in June, we get taxes from Algonquin.
yeah. How much is that, Cindy? Do you remember?
It looks like, let's see, 139, 151 and 32.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a nice amount.
Okay, so we do receive a yearly tax, and that's based on a tax rate set by the PSC?
No, that's on our assessment.
Okay,
So it's on the tax. It's on the taxes.
Well, right, yeah.
Okay, so we do, okay,
So that's part of the overall taxes.
okay. Thanks.
No problem. Next is the waterfront. Teresa, you touched on this a little bit. As you can see, these are the amount of funds transferred from the waterfront to the general fund every year. There was a theory to keep the water rates at the level to reimburse, to give money to the general fund. I wasn't here when this first idea started. The auditors actually did present that normally what's supposed to happen is the general fund is supposed to reimburse for the actual expenses to provide services to the water fund. So that amount of money is still being budgeted for. Last year, we didn't need that much money. And plus, the amount of money being transferred doesn't really make up the total amount in the water fund. So the more you take out of the water fund, the less of a fund balance you have in the water fund. So we decided not to take that much money out of the water fund in the 19 and 20 year to keep the fund balance at a higher level in the water fund as well. We're still budgeting the same amount of money for the next year, because if I reduce that, then of course we're going to see an increase in taxes as well. So I just wanted to plan too is when we stabilize everything, the idea is to reduce the reliance on the water fund transfer to the general fund if we can in the future. Again, it's the board decision, but I will highly recommend that we look at that into the future.
That's been almost a policy for many, 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 many years. Going
Yes.
back, they've taken that money. So
Yeah.
You're right. There shouldn't be a reliance on that money every year going into the general fund.
The next chart is just a little bit to show the taxpayers the percentage of your dollars, how it is distributed between the village, the town, and the school district. Probably everybody knows this, but some people don't know that when you pay your taxes, you're paying a whole bunch of different municipalities. So this gives you a little example of where it goes. I was able to, a village resident gave me a copy of the tax bill for the town. So I updated this a little bit from the last presentation. So I was able to actually reflect a true tax bill from a resident. So you can see an average bill of about $10,991. The school gets about, and don't forget, these are last year's rate. I just heard the school increased their rates by a little bit over 4% or 4%. So that 6962 was last year's, not the current year's taxes. The county tax, the town tax, and the village tax, of what your proportion is. And that 2343 is what the proposed new taxes would be based on this amount of money.
Okay, so the village tax is approximately 25% of people's property taxes. But what I want to point out too is the town. You know, people always talk about the town, but remember what we don't get from the town. So we don't really get services. That $320 is basically for, what is it, recreation? And if we have any IMAs, but we don't get services. We don't get highway services. We don't get police services. We don't get any of those services. So that's what why the town bill is so low.
Correct. This is just an example of showing trends again. The green is your revenues, actual revenues. The red is the actual expenses. Again, just showing trends of revenue and expenses between just the general fund, not the water fund. So you can see the 21 to 2021, the reason why it's the same number is because that's the budgeted number. We don't have the actual numbers of that year yet. And of course, next year's budget is the balanced budget. So that's why it's the same. So you can see this will actually show you what happens with the fund balance. So this is how the general fund balance reflects. The blue is the total fund balance. The lighter blue is the unassigned. This purplish one is the rating agencies. Normally, they want about 20% of total fund balance available, and then the black line is 10% of 10%, which is the unassigned fund balance. So that shows you where Moody's, Standard & Poor's would like to see your unassigned fund balance and assigned fund balance to see. So this shows you from the prior chart, your revenue expenses, how it affects your fund balance. By having a deficit, your fund balance goes down. Having a surplus, your fund balance goes up. So just to show you a little history of that. And that's the end of my presentation. And I want to see if the board has any additional questions, and whenever you want to open it to the general public as well. And of course, all the department heads are here too. So
Mhm.
I think everybody will be more than happy to answer any questions regarding the individual departments.
Okay, board, what questions do you have for either Marcus or department heads? Thank you, Marcus. That was a good presentation.
Marcus, do you know what dollar figure of 1%, each 1% of increase corresponds to?
About $31,000.
31,000? Okay, thank you.
How much CHIPS money did we get last year, if any?
Cindy has the, can access that.
And
We
also,
get it.
I quickly looked at the state budget today. I believe CHIPS has been reinstated,
Correct.
and also the extreme weather. I think, I just quickly read it. I didn't
Mhm.
pay too much attention to that. I had other things.
Right. Chips, we get about 43,000 last year. And then there's the Pave New York and the extreme weather, which is maybe another 8,000. And the notice I got yesterday said we're 95% back in force.
Okay.
What did
So-
we get on the gross utility tax this past year?
so we're gonna file for the bad weather stuff. You have all the paperwork to file those claims with the state? Are we gonna try and get that money back?
Yeah, we always try, yeah, Bob gets the information together. We apply every year if we can, yes.
But you can see that's, it's something, but it's, maybe around 51,000.
Last year, did the village hire a labor attorney to negotiate a contract with the police department?
Yes.
How much was that? And, offhand?
No, I have to pull out specific for that one purpose. I have to pull that out for you.
And are we planning on, is he budgeted for this year? Because I understand the police contract, even though it was just ratified, it was retroactive. When do our contracts expire? The
Police
okay.
contract expires May 31st of this year. The Teamsters expire May 31st of next year. And if you do, is budgeted, the labor attorney is budgeted for, but if the board doesn't want to do that, that's a board decision, of course.
What's his budget? I didn't see it.
I'll pull it out I'll give you the number. We gotta pull it out.
Is there a
And
reason why we can't negotiate with the police department?
No.
It's a board decision. So if the board decides this year and someone would like to do the negotiations, maybe you, Sean, since you're a union person, maybe
wouldn't
you'd like
mind
to
doing it
lead
at all.
that. I'm
I would
sorry.
just like to know how much we spent
Sure.
to see,
Hey,
because
Cindy,
according
Yeah.
to your figures,
Cindy,
Marcus, we increased our salary by $43,000. So that would be one expenditure that we increased it by. If we spent $50,000 on a labor attorney, it would seem kind of useless,
yeah, the labor attorney helped not only with negotiations. There were some issues with the union as well throughout the year. So we have to pull out his bills to itemize how much was spent for negotiations.
So you can get us how much.
Yeah,
you
can
don't
I
have to
just
pull
take
it
a
all out
step in?
now for the next budget hearing, if you could
Yes,
let us know so we can decide whether to budget for it again this year.
absolutely.
Marcus?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to, Sean, situation with the negotiations it was a far different negotiation between the Teamsters and with the police. The police, what's that gentleman's name, Marco, who does their,
Safaro.
I'm sorry?
Safaro.
The Safaro, yes. He basically, we attempted to do negotiations with him, and it was kind of over our heads because I guess you want to say he's pretty good at what he does, and it's like having a minor leaguer play against a major leaguer. And in that particular case, we needed to have somebody who would be on the same level with him. And overall, as Marcus said, I do not know what the cost of the actual attorney was at that particular point, but in just regarding the contract itself, my estimation is that we would made out better than if we had allowed, because I was the one negotiating with Cesare Pasquale, and we realized that and the mayor, interjected that maybe it was we needed a real professional in against him. So because
Well, I appreciate that, Rich, and I'm sure there were some issues that had to be rectified that should be rectified now. So it should be a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but a lot of the issues that you're saying that came up should have already been fixed. So now we can get back to basics, and
Yeah,
if we're spending more funds on a negotiator than we are in actual paying the police or paying the contract, the people who we're trying to negotiate with, it might just be useless. Why put people through 2 years of negotiations when you're at a break even point?
Well, I understand what you're saying. One of the problems is that the PBA, if I believe, and if Shane's still there, he could correct me, but I believe the contract that they have with LaFaro is pretty strict, and in other words, we can't just turn around like we used to do with our village employees and say, look at this. You want this, we want that. Let's negotiate the thing, sit down across the table and everything. It's more like they have to go by what LaFaro wants to put out there. So
Guys, can I just,
Yeah,
I think we
go
should
ahead.
have a more
Yeah.
discussion in executive session about this,
Yeah.
because there are things that I would like to talk to the village board about both unions, and then the board can make an intelligent decision afterwards. But there is a discussion,
point. Yeah.
discussion we need to have in the executive session regarding
good point.
negotiation
Yeah,
for
you're
both
right.
unions.
So I understand, just get us the figures, the numbers, and then we can make
Sure.
a
We'll have
decision.
a discussion. Yep.
Yep, no problem.
Also, when is our dewatering contract up?
I think, isn't that a yearly?
Yes,
No, it's not a yearly.
Yeah,
That's
no.
a sludge removal contract. We have a
Yeah.
dewatering contract.
that was just, Sean, I think that was just approved a couple
Yeah.
months ago, with the sludge removal.
No.
No?
No. There's a
No,
separate,
that was like a 20-year agreement. I'm trying to
Oh,
look.
okay, so you're
Yeah.
talking with Cook.
It-
That's.
Oh,
it was
okay.
acted around 2005. Originally, it was a penny per gallon, and it was supposed to be an increase of a quarter a penny per year, and then renegotiated. So I was wondering if the village has kept up with the gallonage discharge, and how much revenue did we receive from them last year, and how much are we projected to receive in the future?
Okay.
Because
Yes.
part of the contract was
Yep.
also with I&I.
Yeah, that wasn't.
Absolutely, we keep up with it.
Yes.
Yep.
That wasn't
Yeah.
one of the better agreements for the village of Buchanan, but
Yeah.
that
How
was going back
much revenue we-
15.
So we got about 70,000 last year from that,
Mhm.
right? And Nick, we got about 88,000 from gross utility tax.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Yes, as the treasurer, Cindy's really on top of all these numbers, which is great. Right, Cindy?
Sure, Marcus.
And the franchise fees, are we still at 1%, or do we go to 3%?
I think it's still one.
There was a franchise tax that was enacted by the village many years ago. With Verizon and Opt Online, we were offered 1 to 3%, similar to a GRT.
You talk about that gross receipts tax, right?
Well, the gross receipts tax is for the utilities. The one for Optimum and Verizon is similar to a GRT, but it's not the same.
Oh, you're talking about the franchise agreement. That contract hasn't expired yet.
So what is the rate that we're receiving from them? Is it what? It was 1 to 3%. It would be authorized by the board.
That's correct.
What's-
I got to pull out the last contract, but I looked at it. Those contracts went on for, they're still going on for a couple more years, so they haven't had changed. But I'll pull out what they are now.
Franchise fee is set by the contract. Okay, the receipts tax in the franchise fee, which the utility would collect for us,
Correct.
was 1 to 3%, and it's set. We had set it when the contract was up, and it was at 1%. Did you guys change that when you renegotiated the franchise fee?
That has been renegotiated in many years.
Sean, so in the future, I think so we can have constructive conversations. I know you have questions, but things like that you could have given to Cindy or to Marcus. And this way we could have had a really constructive conversation, because now Marcus and sometimes Cindy has to come back to you and say, oh, I have to get back to you. I have to get back to you. I have to get back to you. So, maybe, next time, like give that to Marcus ahead of time. And then this way he'll be able to answer it right away for you.
Just like Nick, I like to do all my stuff in public and have the discussion.
But absolutely. But that would be a discussion that we would have in public. But the people that need to answer those questions would have that information available immediately for you.
And then hopefully they'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Well, then that's where you come in and say, did you get those answers to those questions that I needed to have? And then we have that conversation.
Sure.
And when you were talking about the franchise, I believe at one time with Verizon and Optimum, they would give equipment to the municipalities. They no longer do that.
At the time of renewal. I have that information scanned. I just don't have access to it right now. But I could tell you when the contract was signed, Sean, and I can tell you when they expire and what the current rate is that the customers are paying for.
Okay. That would be good.
And I didn't see anything in there about the sewer rents. And on my last water bills, I didn't see anything on the sewer rents, even though that law is on the books still.
We
Yeah.
passed the law
Yeah.
and we did not implement it because there were some issues with that. And if we had implemented, we would be in a different position. And so you understand, because I know you are against the sewer rents, but it's just fairness to the people that are using it. So sometimes you have a family with 5 kids. Sometimes you have a household with 1. It would go by the usage of the people. That would come out of the general budget. It would come out of there and we would have a separate sewer fund. So Marcus, if you want to go further on that, because I know, Sean, you were upset about that and you were saying all things about that.
And I wasn't upset. I was
We
against.
were just wanting fairness. That's all.
Exactly. So you have a law on the books
Mhm.
that you passed that I believe the board really didn't understand, and you're choosing to ignore that law.
We have not implemented it yet.
When are you going to implement it?
That's a board decision, isn't it? So you're on the board now and we'll have that discussion.
Well, I'd like to have it repealed, because the only worst thing than passing a bad law is ignoring that law. So you either use it or lose it.
Okay, then that's a discussion the board will have. So, and I think you need to understand more about that law before you say it's a bad law. So we're going to have a special meeting to have that discussion, maybe, or at the workshop this month. We have so many things to do, but I would like to address that. And if the board totally feels that it's a bad law, it's not a benefit to the residents, it's not a benefit to the village, then it can be repealed. So, but that's a discussion we'll have, because we have you on the board now and we have Anthony Capicati on the board. So the 5 of us will have a discussion on that with the pros and cons of it, and then we'll figure out where that ends up.
Well, the only 3 people who voted for it are here right now.
Mhm.
Cheech and
Yeah, you know what, but
were
it's a
absent
separate,
from that.
we should have
Oh, you
this
guys
as a
have already
separate
made the
discussion. We're
decision
trying to have
not
a
to
budget
follow it.
public hearing and we're getting bogged down with that. That is a big question. We voted for that law. I thought it was going to be enacted. I was a little surprised that we didn't put it into effect. In general, I like laws that are based on usage, because as Teresa pointed out, 2 houses the same size one could have one or 2 occupants, the other one could have 7 occupants. If there's more water usage in one house, they should be paying more. The same way their water bill is, the sewer bill is based on water usage. So taxes or billing in that way, the more you use, the more you pay, is appealing to me. If there's something about that law that I'm not understanding, let's get to that in a workshop, because the way I understood that law, I was in favor of it, and I would suggest that we stop getting bogged down with all these other conversations,
Right.
because it's not changing the public hearing for the budget right now.
I agree with
And
you,
that
Nick.
was supposed to be a shift of taking it out of the general taxation and putting it specifically into the water bill, a usage-based tax, basically. So, but let's put that on a workshop agenda, and otherwise we're never
Marcus,
going to
can
get
we
with
do
the
that on
budget
the
public
next
hearing.
workshop? I know we have a special meeting, the next workshop. Our meetings go long now, so I just want to let you guys know that. We're working on a lot of things. We've been working on a lot of things. We don't have a meeting for an hour anymore. Those days are long gone. There's times the meetings go till 11 o'clock, but we're working on a lot of things. Do you think we would have time to put that on this workshop coming up this month?
We got a couple present. Let's see what, let's get you a draft agenda and then get to decide what we want to do. This
All
is-
right.
All right, one of the
Have a
next two
special
workshops,
meeting.
we should
We'll have
discuss
extra
that.
workshops, that's all. I'm good with that.
You guys could say right now, it's gonna be 1%. You can say it right now. You don't need a resolution, you don't need anything. You already passed the resolution. The 3 people who voted for it can say right now, we want to institute it and have it in its original inception.
John, we're working on the budget tonight. That's what the
And
focus is.
that's revenue.
We're going to have that discussion. You please list the discussion. We will have that discussion because we're getting sidetracked now.
It's
I
revenue.
want to stay focused on this.
Okay.
Okay, please. We'll get to that. There's a lot going on. We've got a lot of, what did they say? A lot of balls in the air, and we will address every one of those balls. What else? What other questions, budget related questions do we have?
How much is the consultant going to cost who's going to determine how much we can charge for the fuel assemblies? I know you guys work closely and spend hundreds of hours for the legislation. Unfortunately, we can't associate a value with it. And I believe at the last meeting, you said that, or somebody had mentioned, we're hiring a consultant to determine what a value of a spent fuel rod is so that we can establish a taxation. Is there a line item in the budget for this consultant, and what is the projected time frame in order to make that determination so we can get revenue in the budget?
I
Going to
I
be
get-
executive session discussion or?
we can pull out, I can send you, Sean, I'll send you and Anthony the agreement so you can see it. And it tells you what the amount is in the agreement.
So there is not going to be a consultant hired as was mentioned in the last meeting.
There was, and I'll send you the agreement that it was when that consultant was hired, and I'll give you the details.
And we're splitting the fee with the town and the school.
In the school, yes.
So how much is
We
it?
also have the option too of settling on a pilot. So those were the 2 options that we had. So we're going down that road now. We're working on that.
So how much is the cost that's budgeted right now for this consultant?
I have to get back to you, but I have to pull it out.
Okay, so
Good. All right, what else do we have? Because I'd like to open it up to the public if the board has asked their questions. And like I said, we're going to adjourn it this evening and vote on it at our special meeting the end of this month. So, if we have more questions or we have more information, we can address that too. Okay, Marcus and whoever's listening, we're going to open it up now to the public if they have any questions.
Yeah, we have 3 attendees.
Okay,
If anybody want to raise their hand, please do so.
and Cindy, you also will be able to see if anyone calls in with a question or a comment. All right.
Right,
Thank you. Just
nobody
let
yet.
me know if you see anything.
Yep.
Thank you.
Teresa, no hands are raised.
Okay. Well, you did such a good job on the presentation, I guess.
I tried. Does the board have any questions for the department heads of, what's going on, or any general questions since everybody's here? Or does any department head want to say anything about what's going on in their departments?
You did a phenomenal job, Marcus. Excellent presentation.
Peter.
Mr. Cook,
Anthony, do you have any questions? Is there anything there that you saw that you want information on or?
No, I have the binder here.
Okay, good.
A lot to digest.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So I just want to introduce myself to the department heads as a new trustee, and that's about it. But I have a lot to digest. I'm looking through it here. So
Takes a little time. All right, thank you.
Can I ask just a specific budget line question on page 59 of the budget, line A2189? Marcus.
I'm sorry, give me the line item again.
Line A2189, A2189.
82189.
Service
Yes.
charge flow.
Mm-hmm.
And the previous years, we budgeted 107,000. This year, you're requesting 42,000. Can you explain what that line is and how we're able to chop 65,000 off of that line? What is that?
Yep. Hold on a second. I'm going to get into it right now. Hold on. That I have.
What's that number again, Nick?
Is that the A2189?
What page number, Nick? On the
Page
bottom.
59.
Page 59. Thank you.
Is that the sewer charge from Entergy?
I believe it
that
is.
the-
Hold on a
the
second.
income? Is that on the income side from Entergy?
I
What
believe it
that
is.
line?
I believe it is, but let me get there. Yes, that's correct. That's the
That's the
revenue
income
coming in.
line from Entergy. Okay.
That's a flow that they pay us as part of the agreement. That's
There-
correct.
Yes, okay. And another question, the employee retirement payment is dropping about 90,000 and that's a figure that we already got from the state for the upcoming year?
That's correct. They give us a projection of what the rates are going to be, and that's what we use. Yes.
Okay. So that's based on their projection.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, there's a hand raised.
Okay.
Oh, Eileen, hold on a second. Let me let her talk. Okay, Eileen, you're unmute yourself. You can speak.
All right, I just want to lighten up conversation here. Do we have money in the budget to increase the light bulbs in the stairwells?
Lighten up the conversation.
Literally,
I get
I
it.
didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way.
the
But
fun.
we need more lighting on the stairwells because it is very dim. And if you ever have any senior citizen meetings in the second floor and there's a fire drill and they have to use that stairwell to get out, they're going to misstep. So I'm just asking. if we have-
Eileen, you talk about the fire escape lights from the
No,
outside of the
the
building?
stairwell.
Inside.
No.
Inside.
The stairwell inside.
Bob is there. Bob is looking at to Bob. What do you think?
Bob,
I'm just wondering, Bob. I'm just saying, Bob.
Isn't that Timmy?
That's Timmy. I could look into that.
It's the front
could- yeah.
staircase. Yes.
They lightened them up about a year ago, but it definitely is a dark hall. So
it is a dark, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would
It's
highly
very
recommend-
dark and
Right.
I've had numerous people tell me that they have felt uncomfortable, unsafe.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, if
Oh,
you can get
definitely, Eileen,
Nick,
that's
to get an LED
Yeah.
in there to save, can we get an LED in there? LED light?
Yeah, that sounds a good idea. I'll sit down, look at it with Tim tomorrow and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you, Nancy, for confirming that.
Okay, that shouldn't affect the budget too much.
No,
Thank
not
you,
at all.
Nick.
Thank you, Eileen.
Is there anyone else? Anyone else poll in, Cindy? There's no one else. Okay, so there's no one else with a hand raised. There's no other questions or comments. And Sean, yeah, whatever information you need, we'll discuss it at the 27th meeting.
And
Yeah.
may I say, and Sean and Anthony, I don't mind having the discussion in public, but if I can get the questions ahead of time, at least I can get the documentations and then we could discuss it in public. That way I don't have to fumble through my emails or fumble through files. That's going to waste your time and waste the public's time. Doesn't mean that a decision is being reached in the back door, but at least the information is available to the board before a meeting. You can say, I asked a question and these are the responses. I'm just asking for that way we can make at least the meeting more efficient.
Well, so I understand that, Marcus, and what in the preliminary budget hearings that I've always attended, we would bring up questions. And if we weren't able to get the questions to me, we would bring it to the next budget hearing because there are several budget meetings. So the reason why I like to ask these questions is just to have the attendees, the department heads understand the process that we go through. After we would ask the questions and we would get the answers at the next meeting, and we would also go line by line. And I was under the impression we were going to go through the individual lines of the budget. And as we did that in the past, that's when other questions would arise. And then we would answer it right when we had the second public hearing. So I didn't know you guys were having a new process where we wanted to submit questions and have them beforehand.
Sean, it's not submitting questions, it's the gathering of information. You know, so because Marcus is looking, you know, going through his stuff, Cindy's going through her stuff. So, and then we have a constructive conversation. Then we can have like, okay, so it's 1% or 3%. Okay, what does that look like? Okay, good. Boom. So we have that answer right away. That's all I'm saying.
Sean, I just found the paperwork on that, on the hiring of George Sansucci for the assessment of the
Right.
of the storage casks.
Mhm.
It was about, I have my note, which was rounded out. It's roughly 40,000 split 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 town, village, school district. So our share would be about 13,300.
Sure. Okay. Oh, one other thing, Marcus, in the,
Sure.
on page 49, there's no money budgeted for the fire service awards program? Is that because it was so overfunded in the past?
No, that's been moved over to employee benefits. So that's later in your budget. You just got transferred over to employee benefits.
Is it still about 400% overfunded?
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, and there's an actual report that comes from VFIF that's sent to the village board when I get it.
Do you have a way, is there a remedy to reduce our contributions to lower the overfunding of that?
I can check with them and see if there's any state requirements or any requirements of how much has to be funded by, but I can get you that information from VFIF.
And Mr. Cook,
Yes,
I know you've been writing you've had a lot of increased inspections and a lot of increased issuing of violations.
yes.
That should correspond to an increased revenue from the courts. Do you have an estimated value of your efforts and how much maybe we could increase that? Or do you have any idea of what we should receive based on your efforts?
No, I do not at this time.
Okay.
Sean, I do not have a value on that.
Understand.
A lot of the issues have been being resolved or worked on. So a lot of the fines have not been followed through on because they're working on the situation.
No, I understand. It's never been my intention as an elected official to make revenue based on violations. We want people to follow the law, and if you have to push them, that's the last ditch effort. So if you could rectify that without impacting financially residents, that's always a better way.
So far,
Yeah, and that point, what Peter has found is people doing work without permits, showing to answer that question. And when he's addressed that, those people say, "Oh, I didn't know how to do that." So you're right, Sean. We do get a little increase in the permit fees
yes.
because people are doing work without permits, and a lot of them are saying they didn't realize that. So Brian and Peter have found a lot of people doing work as they're driving around and then knocking on people's doors. And people have been so far cooperative, right,
Yes.
Peter?
Yes, very cooperative, very cooperative.
The fines, the illegal actions where you can incur fines on a daily basis, that would be the highest revenue generation. I wasn't really referring to a $30 permit or a $25 permit. I was referring more to a reoccurring fine in the tens of thousands of dollars.
And Sean, and that's another discussion we've been having with the court. That thing's been going on for a while. That's not materializing
No,
as we expect.
I got you. I just wanted to see if you had any idea, that's all.
Yeah.
You don't have to go in depth on that.
No problem.
Okay, so if we have no other questions for this evening, and like I said, we are, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn this meeting and continue it at the special meeting on April 27th. Any information or questions that's needed ahead of time so we can have a constructive conversation, please get to Marcus or Cindy. So on a motion to adjourn this, our budget 2021-2022 budget hearing to the special meeting on April 27th. Can I have, so moved? Can I have a second? Are we going to stay open? Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks everyone for coming this evening.
I want to thank all the department heads. Thanks for all your help during the budget season, and Chief and everybody else. Thank you so much, and see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
Marcus, was there something you just wanted to mention while everybody's on?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Nancy, stay on, and Bob, just to let everybody know,
Stay on, whoever wants to stay on. I
No, this is the-
appreciate the board staying on.
the
but
board has to stay on in this one. The pool, and Sean and Nancy, just to let you know, we've had issues with the pool to a point that a pump has to be replaced in order to operate the pool this year for the summer camp program. We did hire a consultant. He reviewed it. He came back with a proposal to fix the pool. The cost that he estimated originally was about $9,000 to $10,000. We actually got prices from contractors. The price is actually coming in between $23,000 to $25,000 to do the repairs. So the lead time for the pump is 7 to 8 weeks. So it's below the bidding requirements, but I just want to make sure the board is okay for us to move forward with that repair in order to run the summer camp program. There's no official vote. I just want to make sure the board is okay with it. Since the consultant first said 9,000, but when the contractors came in, it's between 20 to 25,000. And we really don't have a choice, or else we can't run the summer camp program this year in the pool. And then I think Nancy will be very upset about that. So I mean,
That will just make us operational for this year, and we still have the other issues that we need to deal with. And
there's
that's-
much more major issues with the pool as well. And Sean and Nancy, I'll get you the consultant's report, his estimate, so you can have that as well for the other work that has to be done. So the kiddie pool will not be able to operate at all this year. Just the big pool will be able to operate, and then we can run the summer camp program, and then the board can make a decision too. If you want to open it to the general public as well, what hours you want to operate. So we can have that discussion in one of the workshops as well. But in order to move forward, we need to get that pump replaced. So I just want to let
How
the
is
board know.
that 20 to 25,000? How is that below our bidding requirements?
It's 35,000 for construction for general work.
It's 35,000 for bidding. There's 3 different levels. You still have to get quotes. You know?
Yes, we
Oh,
got.
okay.
So far, we got 2 quotes, and we're waiting for a
Okay.
third quote. But
Is
they're
it-
within the $20,000 to $25,000 range. Yes.
There's 3 different levels of bidding when we adopted the
Procurement policy.
Okay, I was thinking it was 10,000. I thought anything above 10,000 needed 3 bids.
Yeah, 35,000 is a public bid, and then we get prices below that $35,000. And we're waiting for hopefully for one more bid.
or the engineer
Okay.
can write a sole source letter and avoid that.
Correct.
That was a procurement policy we adopted in 2012, I think.
Yep.
Sounds
All
about
right.
right, yeah.
You voted for it, Nick.
Yeah, I was thinking of 10,000 was the figure. Anything above 10 required 3 bids.
That's okay.
And I thought you said that it was not subject to our bidding requirements. I might have misheard you.
All right. So I just want to let you know, unless anybody has any objection, we're going to move forward with that and get the ball rolling. Hopefully get one more bid. Hopefully it'll be a little less, and we're going to go with the lowest bid and try to get this pool up and running.
And then the board can vote on that at the special meeting.
There's no really requirement for you guys to vote. I'll give you an update of what the final price is, what the final price was. But we got to order, the pump is 7 to 8 weeks lead time to get the pump ordered.
We got to get that ordered.
So we got to do it. So
Not
let's
even.
go ahead.
That's
Right, so
gonna
I just
be a
wanna let you
close call. That's going to be a close call for the opening day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the board think about that? What are your thoughts? Shall we move forward with that? We're at a public
Yes.
meeting now. We are going to, Sean, what are your thoughts? Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Move forward with that?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. We'd
Absolutely.
like to open the camp. The kids are more than ready to go to camp this year. So
And we're
Absolutely.
currently filled, so I would hate to return all that money.
Let's get cracking.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so
all
much.
right, thank you. All
Okay.
right, so
Okay, okay.
on a motion to close the meeting,
Do it.
we are
to-
done. We closed the
Adjourn the public hearing.
Hearing.
That's yeah.
So we're adjourning, we're closing this meeting that we just are finishing now. So I just want to keep everything on the up and up here. So on a motion to close the meeting,
One question, Teresa, hold on.
Sure.
How would, if I wanted to suggest moving money from one line to another, what process would I do? You know, we didn't go through line by line to move the stuff around, and you guys want me to communicate my request prior to the meeting. So how will I go about getting something moved from one line to another? In writing to everybody or what?
Are you asking if there's overages on any lines?
No.
No, budget.
One budget is $80,000. I think it should only be 20,000, and we move the 40,000 to a different line. How would I go about that? Submit my request in writing to you and Marcus and Cindy, or well, how's it go? Because we're not going line by line like we always did. We're
Well,
not
we used
moving
to-
money around.
This is like a different budget. So you know what I think? I think what would work at the next meeting, this is, you know, and everybody else can pipe in. But if you could say, you know, okay, at the next meeting, this, I think this line at 80,000, I think we can have 60,000 in this line. But, you know, let's have the information and say, okay, this is the sewer line, for example. I don't think we need 80,000 in this sewer line. Can we take 20,000 out of that line? Are there any specific lines that you're thinking of now, or?
Well, we didn't discuss any of the debt payments, the future debt payments for the fire truck. We didn't discuss any of those things. We're just going on, you know,
We
what's written in the budget. You know, nobody's even questioned anything.
I
So
wish we had that conversation about the debt payment. Our debt is relatively low compared to other municipalities, but I
But
would-
let me answer Sean's question on that.
Sure.
The ban was taken out. The idea was that the first year's payment, next year's payment, we could skip that payment if we wish to. There'll be no principal payment. And we have the $50,000 we transfer to the fire department. We're going to use that to offset the debt service. So that was the discussion that was made.
well, I understand that, but no final decision been made because it hasn't been authorized in the budget. So that's just one thing. Maybe we could take some of that money and put, you know, this is where I'm getting confused at how this process is supposed to work. So I don't want to get bogged down. I know you guys want to close the meeting.
No,
I
I'm,
want to know
I'll
what process
till
for me to
midnight.
go
It
through.
doesn't matter to me. I'll stay till midnight. But we
I'm
did
gonna
close the public hearing part. I don't think I could reopen it. But I
Right.
guess we're at a public meeting. We could still technically discuss some things.
Just, you
But
know,
with the debt service, so Sean, I know with the fire truck each year, the fire department, $50,000 each year, we set aside for replacement of fire truck, for fire equipment or repairs too. So this year, so what we're doing with the debt on the new fire truck, that's paying for the new fire, most of it's paying for the new fire truck.
I realize that, but what is the ban? How much is the bond for? How many years?
The ban is a renewable 1-year ban. We have not taken long-term debt on that because I want to have the conversation with the board of other capital projects to determine if we wanted to move to a long-term bond. And we have probably 6 or 7 months to make that decision. So right now it's a ban, just like the $1 million for the sewer treatment plant. That was $1 million. That's a ban as well. That's renewable on a yearly basis.
And it's only good for 3 years, and then you have to go to a long term, correct?
5 years. Yes, 5 years.
Go to a long term.
That's correct.
Well,
Now, I'm sorry, but on the sewer, there is no limit on the ban on the sewer project. You can continue on the ban if you wish to continue doing the ban for the life of the debt.
Okay. So I know that the trustees had previously discussed creating a replacement fund for the highway vehicles also. So if how much did you take out for the fire truck? 300,000 or 400,000?
A little bit over 300,000.
300,000. So obviously $50,000 a year isn't going to go to the payment of the principal. Or is that what you guys are talking?
No, it'll be less than that. The remaining is going still into the unless the board change it. The plan has always been the remaining balance in discussion with the fire department that will go into the fire department replacement program for major repairs on the other trucks or a replacement truck in the future.
So where's the money going to come from for the highway replacement fund that was discussed at the last meeting?
Right now, we have, when we talked about capital projects, Bob has a number of vehicles he wants to discuss it, which is substantial. So the idea would be discuss that as either taking out another ban to pay for those items or combine that with the sewer plant and the fire truck and other capital items and do one bond at one time for everything. And
Well,
that was, that was, but that's what I wanted to have a discussion as part of the capital projects. And then, like I said, the first payment isn't due for a year from now, and normally there's almost no principal payment. So it wouldn't affect this year's budget that we're working on right now.
So we're not gonna budget for any capital expenses for this year then, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. In the general fund, there is no capital expenses except for paving that we have right now.
Okay, so the highway department knows they're not gonna get any new equipment this year, basically.
Sean, so you know, and you should know, we've been replacing equipment, not only with the police department, but with the highway department each year. I mean, what did we buy last year? We bought the new water truck. Before that, we bought a new, we've been replacing equipment. So this is news to me, what Bob is looking for, and Bob will have the discussion.
Correct.
What kind of equipment he's looking for, but we've been replacing equipment and we do it almost, it's almost like a lease agreement. And then at the end of the lease, it's, what do we owe? Like $1, and then we own the equipment.
Yeah, so there is leases that we do, like the mayor said, and we know we take out leases, but the interest rate on leases is much higher than taking out a band. So the discussion would be is to discuss capital projects, including all the highway equipment that Bob wants to talk about, and then discuss, do you want to do a ban or for a bond? And then we can budget for that, for not the budget year we're talking about, but the following year's budget.
Well, I agree with you, Mayor. I know you guys have been replacing things, and
Yeah,
that's the way
thank
we
you.
always did it. And years ago, Nick wanted to create that fund, and at the last budget meeting or the last workshop meeting, it was discussed again to create that fund this year in this budget. And I didn't see it in there, and that's why I'm asking. So if we had, instead of putting the whole 50,000 towards that fire truck, you put 10,000 into the new replacement fund, you keep going with the band and pay that off. You could be killing two birds with one stone.
So are you saying, just so I follow you, so we have 50,000 that goes to the fire department. So are you saying, like, instead leave 40,000 for the fire replacement thing, and then 10,000 to the highway department replacement fund? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Based on how much our band interest would be, how much we're going to pay in principal, and how long the loan's going to be. So if you have a 3% loan or band that you're going to, after 5 years, you have to pay 4.5%, you could pay more principal up front, save it on the back end, and then maybe not move that over. But if you're going to extend the bands, you're still going to get the same bang for your buck by only spending the 40,000. So you have to know how much principal you're going to put in before you know how much you're going to put in the reserve fund. So if you have to spend 35,000 on principal, the fire department's only going to get 15,000, or you change the structure of your loan where you're only going to spend 25,000, the fire department will still get the same amount, and you can take the remainder of that fund and put it over to the other replacement fund. So everybody's getting something. It's just the way you structure your payments.
Well, that's another discussion, because some of that money, the 50,000, was also if there was problems, repairs at the firehouse, also for the other equipment, or to rebuild that fund. So I know it's 10,000, but that's a conversation. There's a lot of conversations. We're going to be having a lot of meetings.
I
didn't understand. So Bob will have a discussion with us what type of equipment that he was looking to replace. So we were each year replacing something. So I didn't realize there was more equipment that, he was going to be talking about replacing.
I was just throwing that number out as
Yeah.
an example, because we have to know how we're going to structure our payments so we know how to budget and how to distribute the other funds. Because you might be losing money by doing short-term stuff. You might be losing money doing long-term stuff. You want to keep the same payments to each person. It's just how you structure it. Those were the kind of questions I thought we would go over, but we're not anticipating doing that this year anyway. So
That's correct. Though that capital discussion, Sean, you're talking about, that is should be a separate workshop, so we can talk about what the priorities are of the board and the department heads, and then we could discuss how we can fund those, either short-term, long-term, and we can discuss what the interest rates are for each option as well.
And Marcus would be able to give us those numbers also
Yes.
at the time. So,
Mhm.
So like I said, there's a lot of extra meetings. I'm glad this is still being taped. There's a lot of extra meetings. So Sean, I know you have questions. So that's like Marcus said, that's a separate meeting and we will have those discussions. So next month, I'm probably looking at, I don't know, we have the 2 regular meetings, probably 2 extra meetings, because that's how much we have to discuss and that's how much it's going on here. You know, the pool is a whole nother discussion. There's a lot of capital stuff, you know, there's a lot of stuff we're working on. And then also I would like to get, since I did close the hearing, I would like to get a summation of the other things that we discussed so that we could put that on Facebook to let the public know that the conversation did continue about budget items and.
Well, this will be posted on the website, and also you can send a Facebook post that the meeting did expand and they could watch the meeting.
I was only asking about a process, not
Okay.
expenditure. It was a process of how to move things. That's,
Okay.
I would think that would be outside of the public hearing of the actual numbers of the budget. I
I
was,
just want to be transparent as possible. That's all.
Well, we also did have a workshop to go over the budget. Was that
March.
not the last workshop? When did we do that? I forget the date.
That was
But,
March.
Was it the March workshop?
yes,
2 weeks ago?
yes.
Who can keep track of time? Anyway, so that would have been, so you were not at that, but
I was at that.
we used to go through every line. We have not done that the last couple of years, but people on the board can certainly raise questions about any line during that workshop or anytime during the process. If you have a question on any line that you'd like to see changed, I think, you just bring it up. Or do it in an email in between so it could be reviewed. I don't think there's an exact procedure that we have for that, but if you certainly have questions, you should put it out there.
Marcus, is there another hand raised?
No, that was Eileen. That was,
Eileen.
yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, are we good for tonight? So we got a lot to discuss at the end of month meeting.
Can I just ask you guys to make note that I will be out of town from April 30th until May 8th. I will zoom in for the May meeting so that if there's any votes involved, I will participate. But if possible, I'd like to avoid meetings other than our regular scheduled meeting between for that first week of May, basically.
Okay. Well, we're gonna send out some dates for the special meeting.
If we're sticking to Tuesdays, it's not an issue because
Okay, all right,
it's just that one meeting already.
much to discuss.
And also one last thing, not on the budget. During the pledge, I was wondering why all the board members didn't stand for the pledge. Is there like some issue with everybody standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Nick?
Everyone should be standing for the pledge.
Well, on the Zoom, if I stand, I'm not in the camera. But no, I think that I've noticed with the Zoom, you can't synchronize when everybody's saying it. It's just all, I almost feel like, everybody could do their hand on their heart, but I think it almost would be better if one person recited the pledge, because otherwise, if everybody tries to do it, it sounds crazy.
Well, the only reason why I ask is usually when people don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance or for the national anthem, it's that they're protesting something. I was just wondering if that was the case.
No, not at all. I think it's
I would
just
like to make a comment at this
that
time. I'm a
it's just the Zoom
patriot.
thing.
I'm an American.
If we were in a room, we'd all be standing.
Okay,
Yes.
just wondering. I thought it was a little strange, that's all.
Well, I will
Because
mention, make sure.
If I
everyone
stand, you
stands.
see my,
Okay. Yeah, just so it's clear, I'm a patriot, I'm an American. I will always stand for the American flag and for the Pledge of Allegiance. And what is the saying? I stand for the flag and I kneel for God. That's how that works. So I just want to make that very clear to anybody out there in TV land. So on a motion to close this meeting,
So moved.
second? All in favor?
All right.
Do I have my second?
Aye.
I'm hearing shy people tonight. Second,
Second.
all in favor? Okay, thanks everyone for joining in. Much appreciated. More to come.